Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling the fascinating and sometimes, let's be honest, a bit bewildering world of AI-generated text.
Yeah, it's definitely a hot topic, and you've brought some really interesting material to the table for us to dig into.
There's a piece looking at the sort of inherent snags with AI writing from Humanities LibreText, and also a really detailed research paper called Attribution Bench.
Ah, yes, attribution bench. That one really gets into the nitty-gritty of whether AI can actually back up what it says.
Exactly. So our mission today, really get to grips with the main hurdles, the limitations we face when we lean on AI for writing.
And figure out what that means for you, listening, if you want to get informed quickly, thoroughly, but without getting totally overwhelmed or, worse, misled.
Right. We'll also touch on Google's experimental tool, NotebookLM, and some broader research into that weird phenomenon they call hallucination in AI.
It's interesting how all these different sources, from practical guides to deep research, seem to be circling the same core issues, isn't it?
It really is.
Yes.
Suggests these aren't just, isolated glitches. Okay, so to get you thinking, let's flag a few standout points. LibreText uses this term, hallucinations, quite a bit.
Yeah, like the AI is just dreaming things up, making stuff up.
Pretty much. We'll unpack what they are, why they happen. They even mention deepfakes and the potential for, well, straight-up misinformation.
And that idea, hallucination, it's not just a funny term. Attribution Bench shows it's a fundamental problem. They tested how well AI attributes its claims to sources.
And the results were kind of worrying.
You could say that. Even a fine-tuned GPT 3.5, a pretty advanced model, only got attribution right about 80% of the time.
Wow, only 80%. So 1 in 5 claims might not actually be supported by the evidence it gives.
Exactly. If you're relying on that for, say, research or learning, that's a huge gap. It really undermines the trust you can place in it, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. That 20% error rate really makes you stop and think.
Hmm.
Then there's the look at Google's NotebookLM.
Right. The tool designed to help people work with their information.
Yeah, but even that seems to have some, well, blind spots when it comes to really checking website content properly.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what it's actually reading.
That NotebookLM example is key, I think. It highlights this potential gap between what we expect an AI tool to do, like read a whole web page we give it, and what it might actually be doing behind the scenes.
Like maybe just scanning headlines or snippets.
Potentially, yes. Raises big questions about how deep the analysis goes.
Definitely. And then that survey of hallucination paper gives us the more technical background, why these things happen from the training data itself to just how the AI spits out text.
Okay, so where should we start? Maybe with this hallucination problem. It seems central.
Good idea. Let's
Yeah.
dive into that. LibreText gives a pretty clear definition.
Yeah, they say it's false information created by the AI system to defend its statements. The scary part is how confidently it's often presented.
Right, sometimes with totally made-up citations or facts that sound real.
Like their example, an AI claiming Dr. Jane Smith at Harvard did a study on social media. Sounds plausible, right?
Totally plausible, except Dr. Smith and her study, pure fiction.
Exactly. And Attribution Bench really reinforces this. They found that over 66% of the attribution errors made by GPT 3.5 were due to what they called fine-grained information insensitivity.
Okay, fine-grained information insensitivity. What does that mean in plain English?
It basically means the AI struggles with the details. It might get the general topic from a source, but it misses or misinterprets specific facts, nuances, or the connections between pieces of information within that source.
So it's not always just making things up out of thin air. Sometimes it's just getting the details wrong from the material it does have.
Precisely. It might miss key numbers, dates, or fail to make the logical leap that a human reader would make easily. It's a subtle but really important type of error.
And LibreTexts also brought up the more deliberate side of this deepfakes. Fake images, fake videos.
Yeah, that takes it to another level, doesn't it? Intentional manipulation using AI-generated content. That's a huge societal concern.
So we've got unintentional errors, misinterpretations, and deliberate fakes. And then there's the issue of freshness. LibreText mentioned AI models might just be out of date.
That's a really crucial point. A lot of these big models are trained on data up to a certain point in time. They might not know about very recent events or discoveries.
So they could give you information that was correct, but isn't anymore.
Exactly. Especially in fields that move quickly, like science or current affairs, that time lag in their knowledge base can be a real problem.
Okay, so moving beyond outright errors or old info, let's talk about something maybe a bit subtler, the style of AI writing. LibreText says it often has these giveaways, these patterns.
Yeah, AI text can sometimes sound, well, a bit robotic or unnatural, can't it? It often uses overly formal words, or the sentence structure feels repetitive, lacks that human variability.
They have that great example. Instead of just saying, teens use too much social media, the AI might say something like, what was it?
The excessive utilization of social networking platforms, something like that.
Right. Excessive utilization. Nobody talks like that. It just sounds off.
It does. And the worry LibreText raises is that if we rely on it too much, writing could become homogenized. Everyone starts sounding the same, using the same AI-influenced phrases. We lose that diversity of voice.
Like losing the individual spark.
Uh,
Okay, and that leads naturally to the whole issue of plagiarism and giving credit. LibreText is really clear here.
Absolutely. Submitting AI work as your own without saying so. That's plagiarism. Plain and simple. Big consequences academically and professionally.
You really can't just copy-paste an AI essay and put your name on it.
Definitely not. Whether it's the whole thing or just chunks, you have to attribute it. The risks of getting caught, failing assignments, damaging your reputation, just not worth it.
And beyond the ethics, there's the practical risk that the AI just plain gets things wrong, right? LibreText said it can misunderstand prompts.
Yeah, it might misinterpret what you asked for, or, like we discussed, just generate false info. That example of the fake MLA citation is perfect.
Right, it cooks up something that looks like a real citation author, title, year, but the book or article doesn't actually exist.
So you could think you're citing properly, but the AI has actually given you garbage.
Which brings us back nicely to Attribution Bench. They really focus on how hard it is to even check these AI claims automatically.
Oh.
That seems like a problem in itself.
It's a huge challenge. The core task is, can we automatically verify if every single claim in an AI response is properly backed up by the source it provides?
Doing that manually sounds incredibly time-consuming. Someone reading every source for every claim.
Exactly. Impractical at scale. That's why automated methods are needed, and Attribution Bench was set up to test how well those methods work.
And they're finding about GPT 3.5 only hitting around 80% accuracy. That's pretty telling.
It really is. And they dug into why it failed. Two main reasons came up often in their error analysis.
Okay, what were they?
First was that fine-grained information insensitivity we talked about, just missing or messing up the details in the claim or the evidence. Second was something they called human model accessible information mismatch. Meaning the human checkers could often see the entire web page or document the evidence came from, while the AI model might have only been given a small text snippet from that page during its evaluation.
Ah, so the human has more context than the AI does in the test.
Precisely. And that difference in available information could lead the AI to make a mistake in judging if the claim was truly supported, whereas the human could see it was.
That makes sense. Did giving the AI more context, like the original question, help?
Interestingly, not always. They experimented with adding different pieces of information, the question, the claim, the evidence, the full AI response, but found that more context didn't reliably improve attribution accuracy. Sometimes it even seemed to confuse the model more.
Huh. So just throwing more data at it isn't the magic bullet. It's about understanding the right data.
Seems like it. It's about the quality of understanding, not just the quantity of text it sees.
Okay, really interesting. Now let's pivot to Google's NotebookLM. This tool is meant to help us make sense of our own documents and sources, but that Wursta Corporation analysis raised flags about websites.
Yeah, the big question they posed was, when you give NotebookLM a website as a source, does it actually scan and understand the whole page content? Or is it maybe just looking at, say, the page title or meta description?
And their testing suggested.
Yeah.
Maybe not the whole page.
It seemed that way. They gave an example where they asked it for a direct link to a blog post it had cited from a website source they provided.
And it couldn't do it.
Nope. It basically said it couldn't provide the link and indicated it hadn't scanned the body text of the blog, even though the user had explicitly given that website as a source.
Wow, so if you give it a source, you'd kind of expect it to read the source, wouldn't you?
You absolutely would. It creates a potential mismatch between user expectation, I gave you this website, now use its content, and the tool's actual capability, which might be more limited.
Like summarizing a book just by reading the back cover blurb. You're missing the substance.
Exactly. It really highlights the need for transparency about how these tools actually interact with the sources we provide.
Okay, so finally, let's broaden out again with that survey of hallucination paper. It dives deeper into the technical roots of why AI makes things up or gets things wrong.
Right. It looks at the underlying causes. One big factor they identify is source reference divergence in the training data.
Meaning the data the AI learns from isn't always a perfect match for the original source material it's supposed to represent.
Exactly. Imagine the AI is learning summaries, but the training summaries aren't always perfectly faithful to the original texts. The AI learns these slightly off patterns and replicates them. It's like learning history from a slightly inaccurate textbook.
So it's learning from flawed examples, in a way.
It can be, yeah. Another issue they discuss is called exposure bias. This relates to the difference between training and actually using the AI.
How?
During training, the model is often guided step by step using the correct sequence of words, but when it's generating text freely, it's building on its own previously generated words if it makes a small error early on.
That error can snowball, leading to bigger inaccuracies down the line.
Precisely. One mistake can compound and lead the generation further off track, especially for longer responses.
And the survey also mentioned that our usual ways of measuring text quality, like checking word overlap, don't really catch these hallucinations well.
That's a key problem. Metrics like Rouge or BLEU are great for things like translation quality or summary similarity, but they can give a high score to text that sounds fluent and relevant, even if it contains completely fabricated facts.
So we need better ways to specifically measure factual accuracy.
Definitely. And that's a big area of ongoing research, developing new metrics and benchmarks that are sensitive to factual errors and hallucinations.
It sounds incredibly complex, both making accurate AI and even just detecting inaccuracy. But the survey did mention ongoing work to try and fix this. Right.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of research focused on mitigation, things like using planning techniques to give the AI a better outline before it starts writing, or using reinforcement learning to specifically reward factual accuracy.
So training it to value truthfulness more.
Essentially, yes. Plus, work on post-processing steps to try and automatically detect and correct errors after the text is generated. And also looking at augmenting AI with external knowledge bases, like databases or verified sources it can check against.
And improving its basic reasoning skills, too.
Right, making it better at actually understanding and synthesizing information, not just predicting the next word. They also stress how important human-verified test sets are, especially for checking knowledge of less common facts, the long-tail knowledge.
Okay, so lots of work happening. Now let's bring this back to practical advice. For you, the listener, LibreText had some really solid tips for using AI effectively and ethically.
Yeah, these are crucial takeaways. First off, always review and adapt anything AI gives you. Make it fit your voice, your purpose. Don't just treat it as finished work.
Make it your own, essentially. And second, and this is huge, verify every single source the AI provides. Use library databases, trusted websites. Don't just assume the AI citation is real or accurate.
Absolutely critical. Third, avoid over-reliance. Use AI as an assistant, a brainstorming partner, a first draft tool maybe, but not as a replacement for your own thinking, learning, and effort.
It's a tool, not a shortcut to bypass understanding.
Exactly. And related to that, always be transparent about your use of AI, especially in academic or professional contexts. Cite it appropriately. Maintain your integrity.
Good point. And finally,
double-check the facts. Always. Independently verify any factual claims the AI makes. Your accuracy is paramount.
okay, so wrapping this all up, as you, the learner, encounter AI text, what's the main message from today's deep dive?
I think the biggest takeaway is AI is powerful, yes, but it's far from infallible. You absolutely need a critical eye.
Right. These problems, hallucinations, biases, shaky attribution, they mean you just can't blindly trust AI output as a source of truth. It demands your active engagement, reviewing, verifying, adapting.
And the aha moment for me, really, is seeing that even cutting-edge models struggle with something as fundamental as proving where their information comes from. That 80% figure from Attribution Bench, the NotebookLM questions, it just underscores the current limitations.
Yeah, and understanding how these tools work, or sometimes don't work as expected, is key.
And knowing these pitfalls isn't just academic. It helps you avoid spreading bad information, maintain your own credibility, and ultimately get a genuinely better, more nuanced understanding of whatever you're trying to learn.
Couldn't agree more. So here's a final thought to leave you with. Given everything we've discussed today, the potential and the pitfalls, how do you see our relationship with AI evolving, especially as it gets woven deeper into how we find and consume information?
That's the big question, isn't it? Will we get better collectively at spotting the fakes, the errors, the biases, Or will the sheer volume of AI-generated content just make it harder and harder to sort fact from fiction?
Something definitely worth thinking about as you continue your learning journey. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.